It was still dark when Christmas morning arrived in Germany in 1975. Not the kind of darkness that feels peaceful, but the heavy winter darkness that presses against the windows and settles into silence. The streets were empty, not because people were sleeping, but because there was nowhere to go. Shops had closed days earlier. Trains ran less frequently. The world slowed down, not by choice, but by tradition and necessity. If you stepped outside before sunrise, your breath turned instantly into fog, hanging in the cold air like a reminder that winter was in control. This was Christmas in a different Germany. Not loud, not bright, not overflowing with excess. It was a Christmas shaped by restraint, memory, and quiet endurance. Inside small apartments and narrow houses, families were already awake. Radiators ticked weakly, doing their best against the cold. Curtains stayed drawn to keep warmth in. A single Christmas tree stood in the corner of the room, real pine, slightly crooked, decorated with ornaments that had been used for decades. Nothing matched, nothing was new, but every piece carried a story. The lights were dim, often just a few bulbs, because electricity was not something to waste. Children woke early, not rushing, but careful, aware that this day mattered more for its feeling than its gifts. There were presents, but they were modest. A scarf knitted by hand, a book wrapped in brown paper, a toy that would be used carefully because things were meant to last. Outside, church bells rang softly, their sound traveling through cold air across quiet neighborhoods. There was no traffic noise to drown them out. No rush, no crowds, just the steady reminder that this day was different. In many homes, breakfast was simple. Bread sliced thin, butter spread carefully, maybe jam, saved for special occasions like this. Coffee was poured slowly, stretched to last. People sat together at the table longer than usual, not talking much, but sharing the moment. Christmas in 1975, Germany was not about escape from reality. It was about facing it together. The memories of harder years were still close. Rationing was not ancient history. Rebuilding was ongoing. The idea of excess felt foreign. What mattered was warmth, closeness, and making it through another winter together. Children pressed their faces to frosted windows, looking out at snow-covered streets that seemed frozen in time. Somewhere, a radio played softly, a familiar Christmas melody crackling through the speaker. Television schedules were limited, predictable, comforting. Everyone knew what would be on and when. There were no endless choices, and somehow that made the day feel calmer. This was a Christmas where silence mattered, where pauses mattered, where the absence of noise made space for reflection. People remembered those who were not there anymore. They remembered past winters, past struggles, and measured how far they had come. And as the morning slowly brightened, revealing gray skies and snow-packed rooftops, families prepared for the long day ahead. Meals would take time. Conversations would stretch. The cold would remain outside, waiting. But inside, something stronger held. And this quiet strength, this understated resilience, would define the entire day and everything that followed. As the morning passed, the true rhythm of Christmas Day in Germany began to reveal itself. There was no rush to leave the house, no schedule packed with plans. Time moved differently on this day, slower and heavier, as if winter itself demanded patience. In kitchens across the country, pots were placed gently on stoves, lids set carefully to keep heat inside. Meals were not prepared quickly. They were prepared with intention. Goose, duck, or a modest roast, depending on the household, seasoned simply, cooked slowly, filling homes with a warm, unmistakable scent that mixed with pine from the Christmas tree. Children were sent outside briefly, bundled in thick coats and wool scarves, their boots crunching through snow that had hardened overnight. Streets remained quiet. Neighbors exchanged short greetings, nods rather than long conversations, everyone understanding that this day was meant to be spent inside, with family. Snowbanks lined sidewalks, untouched, clean, reflecting pale daylight. The sky stayed overcast, pressing low as if holding the entire country beneath a gray blanket. Inside, living rooms became the center of the world. Chairs were pulled closer together. Blankets were shared. Old photo albums appeared, opened slowly, page by page, bringing back faces from earlier decades. Stories were told again, not because they were new, but because repetition gave comfort. The same childhood memories, the same winter hardships, the same moments of joy retold year after year. Radios played softly in the background, sometimes replaced by television broadcasts that everyone knew by heart. Holiday programs, familiar films, choir performances. Nothing surprising, and that was exactly the point. Predictability felt safe. Outside, the cold did not ease. Windows fogged from the inside, frost forming delicate patterns at the edges. People avoided opening doors unless necessary, conserving warmth, respecting winter's authority. In many homes, candles were lit in the afternoon as daylight faded early. Their glow softened the room, casting long shadows on walls decorated simply, often with handmade ornaments or decorations passed down through generations. Gifts were opened carefully, one at a time. There was no tearing, no chaos. Each present was acknowledged, appreciated, sometimes even explained. A sweater represented hours of knitting. A book represented thought and intention. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was taken for granted. As evening approached, church bells rang again, this time slower, deeper, echoing through neighborhoods where lights glowed faintly behind curtains. Families gathered around the table for the main meal, sitting longer than usual, talking quietly, savoring food and company. Outside, snow began to fall again in some regions, soft and steady, erasing footprints, resetting the landscape. The world beyond the windows felt distant, almost unreal. This was not a Christmas driven by excitement or spectacle. It was built on endurance, on routine, on shared silence. And yet, beneath that calm surface, something powerful existed, a sense of continuity, a belief that even in cold, even in limitation, meaning could be preserved. As plates were cleared and dishes washed by hand, the day did not end abruptly. It lingered. People stayed together in the same room, listening, remembering, waiting. Because Christmas in this Germany was not about the moment itself, but about what it carried forward into the long winter nights still ahead. As night fell, the cold deepened, wrapping the cities and villages in a silent, icy shroud. Streets emptied entirely, leaving only the footprints of those who had ventured out earlier in the day, now partially erased by fresh snowfall. Fires burned low in hearths, the sound of logs crackling faint in otherwise still homes. Families gathered close, huddling together on worn sofas or around dining tables now cleared of their feasts. The day's light had faded long ago, leaving dim lamplight and candle flickers to illuminate tired faces. Children finally rested after the excitement and careful routines of the morning and afternoon, slept in layers, ears tucked under hats, blankets pulled up tightly. Parents and grandparents sat quietly, sharing memories of winters past, of the struggles they had survived, of moments of joy, small yet resilient enough to endure in memory. Outside, wind moaned through narrow alleys, rattling shutters and carrying a faint scent of frozen snow from rooftops. Smoke rose lazily from chimneys, a reminder that warmth still existed in pockets, carefully tended by those inside. Kitchens, now empty of midday activity, still held the scent of spices and roasted meats, mingling with pine from trees decorated with candles and ornaments that had seen decades of winters. The television, if it existed in the household, played familiar programs, carols, short films, or seasonal broadcasts that everyone knew by heart. Often the sound was background, almost companionable, filling the quiet without demanding attention. The night stretched endlessly, and the cold pressed against walls and windows, reminding all that winter's grip was absolute. But in this containment, a rhythm emerged. Families spoke softly, their voices low, almost reverent, sharing the comfort of presence over words. Small tasks continued. Dishes were washed, floors swept, blankets folded, logs added to fires. Each motion deliberate, slow, almost ritualistic, a counterbalance to the chaos of the outside world and the long months of survival that still lay ahead. Outside, streets bore the scars of the harsh winter, snowdrifts against walls, frozen puddles, and empty carts left abandoned in alleys. The soundscape was minimal. Distant church bells, a stray dog barking, the occasional whisper of wind. Inside, life persisted quietly. People moved with care, understanding the fragility of warmth and the scarcity of light. Windows were closed, doors latched, every effort made to conserve energy, protect from drafts, maintain what little comfort had been carved from the cold day. Some wrote letters by candlelight, reaching out to friends and relatives far away, offering brief updates and wishes, small connections bridging distance. Others read aloud, turning pages softly, voices echoing slightly against the walls of old homes. Every sound mattered in the stillness. Outside, the night deepened further, a dark velvet draping the streets, punctuated by occasional gaslights flickering, their glow reflecting off snow and ice. Silence was thick, almost tactile, and yet within it existed a strange intimacy, the awareness of being together, protected, surviving. Midnight came slowly, unmarked except by subtle shifts in the household. Fires burned lower, hands warmed by embers, hearts filled with the shared knowledge that another day of winter would follow. Another series of routines and survival, yet also moments of connection, hope, and remembrance. The night became a canvas, painted in shadows and candlelight, filled with both fatigue and reflection, a testament to endurance, a silent ode to family and life persisting in the bitter cold of 1981 Germany. Morning light crept slowly across the rooftops, softening the harsh outlines of a winter-worn city. Frost clung to the edges of broken windows and doors, glinting like scattered diamonds in the pale sun. Families stirred in layers of blankets, some still warm from fires tended through the night, others chilly, shivering as the day began. The smell of bread baking in modest ovens drifted through narrow streets, mingling with the crisp scent of frozen air, promising a small comfort, a ritual of normalcy returning. Children emerged carefully, rubbing eyes, breath puffing into the air, cheeks tinged with cold and anticipation. The adults followed, cautiously stepping over icy patches, surveying the quiet neighborhood that had endured yet another night of winter's relentless grip. Smoke began to rise in thin lines from chimneys as homes rekindled warmth, a tentative rhythm emerging from the silence. Market stalls, once frozen and abandoned, began to stir as vendors cleared snow, set up modest displays of produce, bread, and preserved goods, a fragile revival of community and commerce. The sound of footsteps, laughter, and distant chatter slowly returned, a subtle yet powerful assertion that life continued, that survival was not merely endurance but the reclaiming of space and spirit. Streets glimmered under the soft sunlight, reflecting off patches of ice and frozen puddles, revealing footprints of those who had passed before, stories embedded in the snow, telling of struggle, determination, and cautious hope. Families gathered outside their homes, exchanging nods, smiles, brief words, acknowledging shared hardship and shared resilience. Children played lightly, careful yet eager, their laughter echoing faintly, a fragile bridge between despair and delight. Windows cleared of frost and grime, allowed light to spill inside homes once again, illuminating spaces that had felt oppressive in darkness and cold. Fires burned more vigorously, fed by coal, wood, or whatever scraps could be gathered, and meals prepared with deliberate care. Porridge, small pieces of bread, tea warmed gently over embers, sustenance enough to carry spirits through the morning. The city's skeleton of ruins, scarred walls, and damaged roofs remained visible, but the human presence softened their harshness. Repairs were undertaken where possible, chimneys repaired, shutters replaced, a small but meaningful reclaiming of environment and dignity. People shared tasks, forming temporary communities, neighbors helping lift debris, children carrying kindling, elders offering guidance and encouragement. The day unfolded slowly but purposefully. News circulated of relatives, friends, and neighbors who had survived, some returning from distant villages or temporary shelters, bringing stories of hardship, survival, and perseverance. Shared knowledge grew into communal wisdom, how to preserve food, stay warm, ration resources, and protect the most vulnerable. As the sun climbed higher, the harshness of winter's night faded into memory, though its lessons lingered. The value of preparation, the necessity of cooperation, the profound human need for connection and care. By midday, the city, though scarred and fragile, exhaled a collective sigh of relief. People moved with cautious optimism, aware of danger, yet emboldened by another day survived. Streets were no longer empty, but filled with subtle motion. Carts rolling slowly, vendors calling out, the occasional distant bell signaling continuity, a reminder of rhythm, of life beyond mere survival. The warmth of renewed community, the shared endurance, and the glimmer of hope painted a vivid picture that even after the harshest nights and coldest winters, humanity would persist, reclaim its streets, rebuild its homes, and restore a sense of normalcy. By evening, the first signs of celebrations began to emerge. Small gatherings, candles placed in windows, simple meals shared among those who had endured together. Laughter, subdued yet present, mingled with stories told once more of resilience, of nights survived, of hope kept alive. The 1981 winter in Germany, once a test of endurance and patience, concluded not in despair but in a quiet assertion of life's persistence. The hardships remained in memory, etched into the city, into the people, yet alongside them, the lessons of solidarity, preparation, and human tenacity endured. And as night approached and fires were rekindled, warmth spread, and the city, though forever marked by the winter's trial, looked toward the next day with cautious yet undeniable hope. A final testament to survival, to human courage, and to the subtle yet profound triumph of life against relentless cold and adversity.